Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everybody, and welcome to the Vue Contributor Day on the 25th of May. Today, we're going to have a fantastic event full of many news and information about Vue. But before we start, I would like to thank our sponsors. A bit about who we are at ThisDot. ThisDot Labs provide architectural guidance, staff augmentation, on-demand subject matter experts, temporary CTOs, one-on-one pairing, mentorship, and open source strategy. If you're interested in seeing some of the work we've done with our amazing clients, you can take a look at our portfolio page at this.co/portfolio. Next up, we are also hiring. And if you're a software engineer at DevOps, just send us an email at jobs@this.co. We also have an updated list of all the jobs that are currently available on our website. So you can do this.co as well. Right before we start the event, it's important to also share some shameless plug on the other upcoming event that we got coming. We got React Mentoring on the 7th of June, where you can speak to React experts and ask questions in a small welcoming group and community member. Of course, Vue more important, but React text. The next one is State of Angular ecosystem, where you can hear from contributors, library author, and more about various frameworks within the Angular ecosystem. And then next up on the 15th of June, we have Women in Tech Monthly Mentoring. That is a woman where women of all levels of tech are welcome. Special guest is Laura Taco, that is going to talk about how to get more feedback and give better feedback to your peers and teams. And lastly, but not least, on the 21st of June, we have State of the Web Component, where you can catch up of all the news about web components and on the ever-growing adoption of them within the ecosystem. So we're actually ready to start now. Usually, as you know, your host is myself and Evan. I'm the co-host of the little guy in the middle that talks from time to time. Unfortunately, Evan was not able to join us today from some family reason, but there's no problem. You're not actually stuck with me. You're actually stuck with a team of amazing panelists. We have Luke, we have Maria, we have Jessica, we have Awad, we have John, Alex, Paolo, Liam, and Sivir. I went very quickly because I want them to actually present themselves, to introduce themselves, to have a chat. And to do that, I'm going to stop sharing right now and introduce your panelists. So hello, everybody. I think we are all on screen. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go back on my slides and I'm actually going to name one by one and just give a quick introduction for people that are listening. Some people may know you, some may not. So do it if it was the first time. First one we have is Luke, sorry.
Hello, everybody. My name's Luke Diebold, coming at you from Australia. And I'm part of the Quasar core team focusing on content, so videos and all that good stuff.
That's amazing. Next one up is Maya. Maya.
Hi everyone, my name is Maya and I'm from Microsoft. I'm also a core maintainer of Storefront UI, and I'm here in Panelist and discuss anything about Vue and any update.
Amazing, thanks so much for the introduction. Next one up, I have Jessica.
Hi, my name is Jess. I work at Cypress full-time as a staff engineer. I'm most known for working on Vitest utils and the Vue testing ecosystem, as well as Vitest and Vue. And recently I relaunched a fork of Faker.js after it was abandoned in January 2022.
Thank you for that, Jess. Next one up is Awad.
Hello, everyone. I'm Abdurrahman Awad from Egypt. I work at Rasail. I created Vuelidate and another graphical library called Velus. I also write at a blog on Vue and TypeScript mostly.
Amazing. Next one up on my screen is John.
Hey, my name is John Leader. I'm from Fort Worth, Texas. And I'm the author of Vuetify and one of the main maintainers on the project.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And now we have Paolo.
Hey there, Paolo from Quasar core team. I'm co-founder of DreamMonkey, a small firm, a small consulting firm in Italy, and my main concern in Quasar team is about testing right now.
It's amazing. The next one is Liam.
Hi, everyone. I'm Liam DeBeasy. I'm the lead developer on Ionic Framework, the toolkit for building mobile applications. As part of that, Ionic Vue, which lets you build mobile applications with Vue 3. Excited to be here.
Amazing. Thank you for being here. And last but not least, we've got Sibren.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I'm Sibren, and I work at Urconf in Belgium. I'm core member of Chakra UI Vue team. And yeah, I will represent the Chakra UI Vue today.
Amazing. That's fantastic. That's all. These are all the panelists that we have so far. We have a big variety of people from different parts of the ecosystem. I've heard testing a few times, and I think it's nice that we have such a strong, strong presence, and we can probably talk about all the upcoming changes and things. And as Jess knows, I love Vitest and the things that come next. So that would probably be mentioned a few times. What we're going to do, guys, we're going to use the first part of this event to give a few updates about Vue.js. And I think Jess is going to take over the show and sharing something of what is coming next on the Vue.js core team, what is coming next from within the framework. And then we're going to take the second part where everyone is actually going to share a little updates of their own their own other plugins or company or anything. And then there's going to be loads of questions. So if you do have any questions, guys, do write them in chats because we're going to see them from time to time. And we want this to be as a great event and give you the chance to actually speak with the contributors. And with this, I'm going to quiet myself.
Awesome. Thank you, Simone. So this is last minute, family emergency popped up. So all I have is Evan's notes. I'm going to do my best. Please fact check me. So first up, we have a massive patch release, which was 3.2.34 through 36. There were over 70 PRs merged and 140 issues closed. That's major. Vue 2 is now also moved on to TypeScript. So internally, we get a better developer experience when we're building our Vue 2. And speaking of Vue 2, work on Vue 2.7 is underway. With the composition API, partially tests are passing, and then script setup, the script setup tag, that work is planned. We will be working on 3.3 after we complete 2.7. We're going to be finalizing Suspense, the Suspense API, which has been experimental for quite some time. You should take a look at it if you haven't. And then we're also going to finalize the reactivity transform. Both of those things are available in the Vue.js docs. They have a giant label that says experimental on them. So you can take a look at the docs for more information. We're also improving the types for script setup for the define emits and define props compiler hint APIs. So if you've had the chance to work with script setup, if you've had the chance to play around with TypeScript in script setup, which is, by the way, the API Cypress uses, we're very lucky to be 100% TypeScript, 100% Vue 3. We're very excited personally for this change. There have also been improvements to server-side rendering. There is now lazy on-demand hydration of async component subtrees. Evan would do a very great detailed explanation of what that sentence means. I'm not going to. But we have people who are used to using, like, let's say, Vitest and stuff like that. We have improved hydration mismatch warnings. So in your dev console, you'll see better warnings about why, about exactly what's messed up. In layman's terms. All right, future. In the future, Evan has been experimenting, and if you look at his Twitter timeline, you'll see some hints. There's a new Solid.js inspired compilation strategy. It's a very early stage, very, very early stage, but there may not be a virtual DOM, and the performance numbers so far that he's been running are notable, I would say. It's also compatible with the current server-side rendered output. Again, Evan would give more details than that vague sentence. He has an adoption strategy. I'm not going to go into it because it is more than 2 sentences. But to be straight, his future explorations are focused and considering what current Vue 2, Vue 3 users would have to go through to adopt this no virtual DOM experimental, I don't know, version of Vue. It's pretty exciting. Okay, cool. So I think the last note we have for the Vue core update is that the SFC playground, which is available at, what is it, sfc.vuejs.org. It's pretty cool. You can, it supports like Velar and syntax highlighting. It's a very quick way to do reproductions. If you haven't played around with the SFC playground, please do so. They put a lot of work into it. And pretty quick way to show off Vue if you're ever trying to teach somebody. That now supports SSR reproductions. So if you are working in Nuxt 3 or Nuxt 3 beta, you're able to run the entire compile, render, and hydrate process directly in the browser. And when you submit issues to Vue or your favorite, Vue plugin library, Vuelidate, SFC playgrounds are very, very helpful. So please consider using that next time you open an issue. I think that's all I have, Simone, for the Vue core updates. Did I miss anything in the notes?
I don't think you did, myself. Is anyone else around the room aware of anything else or any more discussion that you had with Evan?
I missed anything?
So in a recent podcast I had with Evan that we did a couple of weeks ago, I know that his real focus on on the new version of Vue, that will be 3.3, is actually going to be about server-side rendering. And that's the reason why he's doing all this exploration on trying to do everything. And I'm really, really excited because so far we really looked at the front end. We know that the framework got super fast, super easy to use. The things change and adapted over time. And it'll be great now to also see a move towards the server-side rendering because we know that there is a lot of needs for people from that. So that'll be great to see that coming.
Crossover there, by the way, if people are like reading the tea leaves, Vite 3 is also very heavily focused on server-side rendering, and Nuxt 3 is also very focused on Vite. And so you can start to see this pattern emerging where Vue is trying to make its architecture as compatible with Vite's and Nuxt 3 as possible. So I think we're going to see over the next course of the year a lot of pushes in architecture to make SSR as DX friendly as possible, as performant as possible from the Vue side.
Yeah, I think that's the move that kind of the whole ecosystem is going. I think with Remix and other framework, it came around and trying to push back remove the SPA and started to go back to the server-side rendering the pages. So I think there's a big need for it. So I'm happy that the framework is following that up. So that's fantastic to hear. Good. I think what we can do is we had this. I think the last time that we had a Vue Contributor Day, it was before Vue was actually Vue 3 was actually turned into the main version. Last time we met, the Vue 3 was still the Vue Next. So it was not, because that happened in January or early February, if I'm not mistaken. So probably what we can do is go around the room and see what has been the implication to the change to Vue 3. How is the your kind of whatever you're here to support, how is that been accepted by the community, and how well how ready are you for the Vue 3 and anything that's changed on the other hand. Let's go. I don't know. I'll go from top left. Let's go. Awad.
Yeah. Okay. So what I noticed during the transition from Vue 3 being marked tagged as next, then becoming the latest, is the ecosystem libraries. People usually used to install, for example, Vuelidate, yarn install, or npm install Vuelidate, and it would work with their Vue 2. But since the ecosystem took some time to transition into Vue 3, it meant that people always getting mismatched libraries with Vue.js. So that was the kind of confusion. I think library authors did a great job by syncing with the Vue transition itself, the official announcement. And yeah, I think that's the main highlight for me.
That's amazing. Next one down, or go down and go Paolo. Paolo and Luke, I think you can both give an update. So
okay, so what we saw into the Quasar community, I think we support Vue 3 since February 2021. So we were pretty early adopters of it, and we noticed people are constantly migrating. So there's a consistent number of people migrating it. We keep seeing actually always the same question, but that's pretty normal. I think it took us quite some time to adapt all the app extension. I don't know, just a little digress. Into Quasar, we have a plugin system called App Extensions, and we had to adapt all of those to support Vue 3 and some changes we did with Quasar while switching to Vue 3. So I think that's what blocked us more. We are still working on it in some cases, like the Jest app extension is just a bit lagging behind. We'll need to work on that soon. On the user side, I actually see, okay, people with a bigger user code base, of course, they have some problems, but we saw a lot of people migrating their Quasar projects in like 1, 2, 3 days. So seems the medium projects, of course. I migrated some of our projects, and it was something like 6 hours for a medium-sized app. So it wasn't that hard. Luke, don't know if you want to chip in.
Well, yeah, I think the question like about the impact on us from Vue 3. Yeah, well, the biggest impact for me is just being able to use script setup with the composition API is absolutely bliss. I mean, if you haven't tried that yet, this is insane. I talked about this last time when I haven't brought it up. Your code is on the left side of the screen. I haven't written code on the left side of the screen in such a long time. It's amazing. But on top of that, and this kind of like builds on top of that, is using the composition API with tools like Vue Use makes it really, really easy to pull your components apart. So especially as our applications get bigger and bigger, like some of the stuff we've been doing at work just starts to get really unwieldy with the options API. Being able to just pull code out and put it into a different file within seconds is so easy with the composition API. And that's one of the biggest changes for me with Vue 3. It's just abstraction, being able to abstract things and pull code apart really quickly. That's been one of the biggest impacts for us.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Maya, have you got anything that you can share on this subject?
Well, I just started to refactor I started a project of Furion. It's the component library using XStay, stay machine in the background, under the hood. And I create one component for Wizard for the library, and now I'm going to add more components into the library, like dialogues and modals and a better performance version of the Wizard, and we'll probably release to the first version very soon.
That's amazing. Liam, what about you?
So Ionic Framework, specifically Ionic Vue, which is the Vue-specific integration for Ionic Framework. We supported Vue 3 since day one, back in like October 2020, whenever it came out. And that was really, really exciting, being able to see it go from alpha to beta release candidate, and then finally the big release of Vue 3 was really, really great. I think one of the biggest frustrations from our users was going to Vue 3. People are really excited about all these new APIs, but not all of the ecosystem has been updated to Vue 3. So for example, there was a third-party virtual scrolling library that people wanted to use, but it was only Vue 2 for now, and it just wasn't compatible with Vue 3. But fast forward just a few short months, you know, a lot of things have been updated to Vue 3. So the adoption has been really great. And sort of what Luke said with the composition API, like I saw that, and then I saw the Vue 2 API. I was like, I'm sticking with the composition API. I don't want to go back. So overall, it was really, really smooth and exciting to support it from day one, and also really exciting to see the ecosystem evolve and migrate, even over just the past year or two with Vue 3.
That's amazing. Next one, John.
Yes, question.
What is we're talking about the Vue 3. So since we met last, Vue 3 has been upgraded to be the right version. So how is this affected Vuetify?
Well, it's actually been kind of an interesting road upgrading from version 2 to version 3. Version 2, we focus a lot on render functions. And even though Vue 3 is compositionally built, it still kind of presented a challenge in the beginning. And as Vue 3 progressed on, Kale was able to figure out a way to integrate TSX into the creation of our components. Completely changed the game. Allowed us to really create clean code, and ultimately accelerated us to be able to, even though we're late, get to the place where we're at right now. And the brunt of that is due to the updates in Vue 3 and how that's progressed. So
I've been able to lurk inside of the Vuetify code base. So on the side, maybe a year ago when I first released Cypress component testing, I kind of slid in there and I was like, hey, do you guys want some help with testing? And the change to use TSX, the chain and all of the features you guys support, like it's a lot of work. And you've kept going like component by component by component, rewriting the tests to be more meaningful. Like it's been really interesting seeing it from the outside in. I've really kind of like enjoyed watching from the shadows. We actually use your color picker in the Cypress docs now. I took a video of the component test for the color picker. It's really cool looking.
Our color picker? You talking to me?
Yeah, I'm talking to you. Yeah,
I'm gonna blush. I'm gonna blush.
Yeah, the V color picker written in Canvas has a beautiful component test that maybe you haven't seen, but it's I took a little WebM video and put it in the Cypress docs. It's like, welcome to the component testing. This is Vuetify's color picker.
Actually, Cypress is, and you're being very modest, just helped us out a lot with integrating Cypress tests into version 3, which in combination with our spec tests are going to make it a lot easier for us to progress forward in the framework. And it has been vital. It has caught things. It has allowed us to, as we make these changes progressing forward, it is going to protect us from regression. And I'm excited because it was super easy to integrate. Once we got that first little over the hill and the devs start getting there and tinkering around and making things look cleaner.
I could nerd out about this for a while, but let's not. I'm like, you and I should talk afterwards because I'm just so ecstatic about how much Vuetify is using
it. Thank you so much, John, for that update. We know how hard it's been, so and it's nice to see, to hear the behind the scene that you guys share. Last but not least, Cypress.
All right. Well, for us with Chakra UI, we're still in the alpha state, so we don't have much feedback from the user side. But we know there are users that using Chakra UI Vue V1 in production on the website itself. So that's pretty cool. I think especially because of the Chakra factory function. Well, on development side, we decided to start from scratch to have the TypeScript support in there. And for me personally, it was the first time really working with TypeScript, so it is still a challenge for me. But once I get it running, it's really cool and great to use. So yeah, overall, it's a new start, let's say, but it's cool, and we're happy to build on TypeScript support Vue 3 with Chakra UI.
That's amazing. That's amazing. It's been interesting to see that most people took this the needs to upgrade from Vue 2 to Vue 3 to actually rewrite everything using TypeScript. So the move that the Vue 3 did to actually implement TypeScript and really support it is really been a needs that was in the industry. So many core contributors and many plugins and things that I've seen, this straight away kind of made the jump. Unfortunately, that made the jump a bit harder because it's easier to migrate from Vue 2 to Vue 3 app without doing the full TypeScript straight away. But many people thought to do that big change. And yes, if you are also going to go from option API to the script setup, that's that's a more learning curve, even more to change. And again, added the TypeScript confusion that has been an interesting challenge.
I would say, like, you can do it component by component. I'm just going to say it out loud. Component by component, the only rule between keeping JavaScript and TypeScript separate, or options and composition separate, is one SFC file at a time. So if you want to mix JavaScript with TypeScript, no big deal. Migration's pretty simple. Make a new SFC file. So wanted to call that out. You don't have to do a full rewrite. Yeah.
Yeah, no. So, if I want to share my experience, I've been working with the Wikimedia team, and we are upgrading the Vue 2 to Vue 3, and we actually went through the normal flow of adding actually the migration build. We've gone through, easily migrate everything, and then do the change. So, I would say that from all the previous migration that I've done in my career, the Vue 2 to Vue 3, as much as it's changed so much, it's been seamless, because I think the Vue migration build really helped people to do that. But again, the other complexity of TypeScript that is usually the first time for most of the Vue developers is what keeps happening around.
So true.
Good. 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 Oh, I thought you wanted. Good. So there has been a few more changes within the Vue ecosystem as well since we last spoke, and one of them is about the store. So as you know, now we moved from Vuex to actually use Pinia, or at least that's the suggested going forward if you're starting a new one. And then also, of course, the extension of using Volar instead than the Vue. And last but not least, I think in the long run, everything will probably, I don't know why, I expect Vitest to also take over and Vite to take over. So what do you think about things that's going? Have you already started to use Pinia yourself? What do you think about the changes? What do you think the community is going to, how do you think the community is going to address the changes of that are happening within the framework itself?
Is that addressed to a specific person? Did you?
I'm asking, I'm not going around the room. If you do want to, just unmute yourself and take it over.
So the question is Vitest going to take over the world?
Well, she jumped in. I knew that she. So I spoke for a few minutes. Vitest, yes.
So the question is Vitest going to take over the world? Is Vite going to take over the world? Okay, we could start with those two. I have opinions, but please, Paolo, Luke, you are chomping at the bit.
No, I think Vitest will soon. I think it's already taking chomping away the testing market share Jest had. I don't know. We still don't support it, but we already started experimenting with it. We'll probably create another extension with Vitest. It seems interesting. I don't want to anticipate the community update on our side, but we are pushing pretty hard on the Vite. As soon we try to be early adopters on this kind of technologies and changes into the Vue ecosystem, and we actually like it. It's something interesting. We still need to get used to it and create some stuff around it, but seems pretty interesting to us.
Any more on the Vitest taking over the world?
I can talk about it. Yeah, so Vitest is really freaking interesting. I'm giving a talk about it at VueConf US in, oh gosh, June 9th. I don't know if it'll be live streamed, but the talk I'm giving is called Vitest and the Anatomy of Test Runners. And so Vitest is very interesting because it is a test runner. Which defines like what the it function is, what the test function is, and like how quickly the tests run and how they compile. And its design goals are actually really interesting and similar to Cypress's in that you want to use the user's build config, which makes it extremely easy to set up testing. If anybody has ever tried to set up jest config for a Vue project, probably the first issue you run into is like when you're trying to use an alias and you want to use like when you want to map the @ sign to source or source components, and you have to reduplicate this work. And the design goals that Vitest have is just like, you already define your build config. Let's just use it. You know, it's Vite all the way through. Vitest looks for your Vite config and loads it in, and then your production and test code operate under the same kind of compiler constraints. And that means that when your tests, you reduce the surface area of prod only bugs. And it's just a brilliant design decision. It's one of the reasons that I'm kind of in love with Vitest's design ethos. And Cypress has the same exact one. Just recently, in the last week, moved to become an open collective, I think, versus sponsored by Facebook. So there was some leadership change in Jest, if I remember correctly. Do I have any nodding heads? Okay, cool. I'm not. I wanted to make sure I wasn't making that one up. But yeah, I think for any project, any new Vue project, you should be using Vitest for any unit testing. I would hype Cypress still for anything headed. Anytime you want to render in a browser, and there's an open question that somebody asked in the document that we might get to later about Cypress component testing versus like Playwright just released component testing. And there's some more new projects that I'm happy to talk about later that it's basically, I don't know, the whole ecosystem is going component driven and it's very exciting. So that's my Vitest bit.
Any more Vitest again? Go ahead.
Yeah, all right. I want to add on that. At my main job, we have like our Mono repo and we have Jest in it, and we're currently like looking to throw it out and add Vite and Vitest on it because we're running at issues with we have some nodes scripts and node files, and we also have Vue files, so it's always switching test environment, and we're hoping Vitest will fix this, and it will this for us. So yeah, I think my 9-to-5 job is going to take over.
Yeah, ES module support is the big thing that we're really excited about with just Vite and Vitest in general. Going to solve a lot of headaches for us.
Yeah, and I think they started something. I think it won't be long before more tools and everything else will come up with the with the module idea. So I think thanks to Evan for his weekend's proof of concept that turns into magic. John, Awad, any more? Would you like to chip in on anything at all about Vitest, or we get to go to the next topic?
Nothing here.
Good. The question was a bit more broad and not just Vitest. I also mentioned about Pinia. So I personally have not had the chance to use it in production yet, and I've not had the chance to actually upgrade anything from UX to Pinia. So as of myself, I think there will be loads of people in the community that are in the same situation. So it would be interesting to see if there's anyone around here who has actually used Pinia. If you've actually done an upgrade, if you started from scratch, and share your views on how has that been, if you've done an upgrade, and what are your thoughts so far? And again, it's an open question, so anyone can take the mic.
I could provide my experience. I haven't used Pinia, but I have explored it. It's strange because we don't actually feel the need to use Pinia. So a composition API is so modular, it just allows us to define our own way of creating stores. And it's so flexible. It just, why do you actually need Pinia? Actually, I think it may be useful, especially when you want time travel, of course, and SSR support, because otherwise you need to do it yourself, and that's a pretty pain in the ass. So, but for some SPA we created, we didn't actually need those stuff, and it was pretty cool even without it. We still added the support for it, just an anticipation of the community update, but I don't know, in my opinion, and I think it's pretty shared between all the people into the Quasar team. We discussed about this a bit. Seems like the more expert people, the more knowledgeable a person is into the Vue ecosystem and composition API, the less the need to use Pinia. But I think it is pretty useful for newcomers or for bigger projects where you need to onboard a lot of people with different skill level. That could be interesting in those cases.
Thank you for your view.
Yeah, that's I've heard similar feedback, Paolo. Like at Cypress, even when we did make the decision to use Pinia, and the reason is actually it's really funny. If you go to pinia.vue.js.org, there's like the H1 tag is introduction, H2 is why should I use Pinia if we have reactive. And so the bullet point list, I'm just going to read it off. I don't have to even make anything up. The DevTools support. So when Eduardo Posava created the DevTools with Guillaume, they worked very closely together for a timeline view of when the Pinia store would be updated. So you get very good enhanced DevTools support if you use Pinia. Obviously, you can actually add this yourself because they wrote the DevTools in such an extensible way. But you get to timeline to track actions, mutations, and the stores appear in the components in which they are used. So it's easy to visually see like the products list page is depending on like, I don't know, the cat store. And you're like, why does the products list page depend on cat store? That's weird. Time travel, obviously. And then hot module replacement, and to your point, server-side rendering support. Finally, and this is the reason Cypress uses Pinia, is because of the proper TypeScript support and auto completion if you're using JavaScript. So if you are a JavaScript user and you want good IDE support, Pinia will give you that for free. And that, for me, is the biggest reason to use it, even though, like, yeah, this could all just be a reactive object, because Vue 3 really is that simple with the composition API. But all the sugar, you just get all of that for free if you use Pinia. That's my selling point on it.
Thank you so much for quoting that, Jess. Development support is not a small improvement, isn't it? So when you have that ability, I spend probably 6 hours of my 8 hours a day in the DevTools. So when that actually get easier, I think it's a big selling point. Anyone else with Pinia? They want to chip in?
Well, I would like to share. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, you go ahead. I talk too much.
Okay. So for us and Rasail, we didn't use Pinia for the same reasons Paolo listed, because the composition API seems to, I wouldn't say eliminate, I would say reduce the need for using a state store in general, because you have this smaller functions or smaller context function that you can use. So stuff for development like tracking changes or time travel isn't critically needed, even in a large application, which we fairly have, because everything is small, everything is really isolated, everything is manageable, so it's not getting out of control to the point where I want to know what changed this state, how did this mutation happen, what fired this action. So having said that, I would say that Pinia does something really interesting that I think I wasn't sure when was this added, but there was a clash between people using the composition API and state stores, because you can't reconcile the two states together without setting up a bunch of watchers and stuff like that. But Pinia introduced a really interesting thing where you can define a store function that acts as a setup function, and that makes it really easy to source composition, like to make your composition function, your existing ones that already has state, already has actions, to source that stuff to Pinia, and you get all the development benefits. So you can actually migrate back and forth really easily. And personally with stuff like Vuelidate I'm working on for 4.6 is focusing on that small aspect, onto how to make Vuelidate source your form, state and validation and stuff into Pinia so that you can use it immediately. That's what I wanted to say.
Amazing. Thank you for that. I was not aware of that, so I will surely go and do some research. Yuk, do you want to take over the mic?
Oh, I'm convinced that I want to give it another try now. Another thing, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think another thing that beginners might like about Pinia is that you can use it in a very options API kind of way. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong about that. I haven't used it in a while, but it kind of feels a little bit more like you're using the options API. And that's the kind of impression I got when I first used it, in that you've got, I think you have like actions and like and getters or something like that.
Even this context. Yeah.
And that might be a little bit more comfortable to people that don't want to use the composition API.
It's funny because it's a very composable, library framework. What the fuck would you call this thing? It's a very composable library, and it can be very functional. But in some of the getters and such, like you do reach out to this. You are like this dot whatever to get at that context. So yeah, it might be more familiar for users that are used to writing Vuex than just using raw composition API.
Amazing. Anyone else would like to add a opinion in the conversation? No. Again, as you look, I will give it a try. I'm just not there yet. I think it's different from Vue 2 to Vue 3. There was a need. There was such a change. There was so much that you were missing out by not upgrading. With the Vuex and Pinia, you feel like, I'll wait a little bit. I see what the ecosystem say, and I will decide likewise. And it's been great to hear your comments and your suggestions as well. Surely people will take very good use of it. So that's fantastic. Something that you say, Luke, what I like is that you mention you put together the open option API and people starting on new starters. So do you guys still think that people that are starting on Vue and junior developer or less experienced developer will continue to use the option API, and the composition API is more for an advanced needs? Or do you actually think that in the long run there is going to be mainly script setup and composition API usage? So what is your let's say from 2 years from now, what do you think?
I'm happy to speak on this, probably a bit controversially. I'm all in with the composition API, and I think with script setup, sure, maybe there is some reason to use it. But I personally don't feel like it's difficult enough to go options API first, then composition API. I think that used to be the case. Maybe some people feel like saying dot value is a little bit too difficult. I personally don't, especially when you're using Vola and it fills in the dot value for you. So yeah, to be honest, I'd rather go composition API, but I think it's really cool that we have the option, and that Vue has done an amazing job committing to maintaining backwards compatibility and not leaving people out in the dark. But yeah, personally, if I had new people on the team, I would be, letting them know about both, but starting them off with the composition API.
Well, I have a different view on that. I actually think that the composition API is a little bit, how to say it, it's cool in a way. I really like it, but yeah, using composition API can be a little bit overhead and too much for developers. And using options API would be more organized in a way. I mean, I'm using setup script, which is cool. But then it's hard to grab the whole idea of, okay, it's setup script. Now I need to add some reactive. I need to use the reactive hook and so on. The flow is not exactly like that. And it's require a bit of learning curve for developers from Vue 2 to Vue 3. But yeah, it's well, I hope I came from also the background of using React hooks. So, I mean, it makes sense using React hooks and React, but I don't know. I haven't seen the real benefits of using composition over option APIs, except for using very simple component and so on. But yep, just me.
I'm a little torn personally. Like all of Ionic's examples use composition APIs. We're starting to get more with the setup stuff. But I've also personally debugged a lot of apps and admittedly built apps myself where like the setup function is just massive and you can really get into trouble if you're not careful.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. Like I tried it and then at some point it's become like too large. You're like, okay, it's kind of like a mess right there. You need to, I like to organize it. So
that also kind of feels like a benefit to me in that when it does get larger, because whether you're using composition API or options API, you're going to end up with that same situation. And one of the things I like about composition API is that you can then say, well, I can easily extract this out. I don't find that easy to do with the options API.
Well, there's all this shared context, right? Like literally this is just holding all of your state, right? And all of your, I'm saying the word actions, but it has a very specific meaning, all of your methods, right? Extracting that out is very difficult than, using Command F and looking for variable names. And then just all the references of the variable names and being like, swoop, now you're a child component. Or swoop, now you're a parent component. I find it very easy to refactor composition API components. The question you asked, Simone, was in 2 years, what do you think people will be writing? That's about the question? I think
that's the question.
I think in 2 years, I think it'll be defined by us, the library authors who write the example code, Liam. And so if you're writing a lot of composition API code in your examples, the junior developers are going to copy paste that. And that's where it starts. So I think script setup is going to win because it is fewer lines of code to write in an example block in documentation. I think it's really just that simple.
Opposing opinion.
I
love this conversation.
The fucking Vuetify docs.
So far, okay?
No. John, the Vuetify docs do a lot of magic to make very interesting copy-pastable examples.
Working with it in the docs, and I believe that's what the team has ultimately decided we're going to use as the setup. But for me personally, since I primarily work with render function-based environments with pseudo-pure functions, reactivity, I don't like the script setup. I feel like it's harder to read what's available and what you're using. And I like explicitly returning back what things are because
it's too much magic.
Well, see, that's the thing. I hear that. But you can do magic, and then you can also return your magic so they can use it if they want to.
So I think
I just want to say one thing.
More point.
I just say one more thing. I just want to say that if this was in person, I would do a high five with John. That's it.
I always like high fiving John. I'm sad you're not at Vue Amsterdam or Vue Conf US. But okay, so the last part I was going to say about new developers coming into Vue 3, and their like options, composition, what's going to happen in 2 years. I do still think that full stack developers who are used to OO type languages like Ruby, Java, whatever, like they're going to prefer having an object style API. They're, that's what they're used to. And so if you're dabbling in Vue, I think you're generally going to want this and this context versus, functional JavaScript, in which we have our little fat arrow one-liner functions that we, as JavaScript developers, all kind of love. I think we like them, but anyway, that's all I got.
Look, you made the child cry. I'm saying no more. Look, she's not happy. Jokes apart.
Yeah, the child cry the moment you mentioned composition API. Okay, good job.
Oh, yes.
I'm just joking.
So far we have a 2-2, guys. So it's a draw. Okay. Is there anyone who's going to swing the draw over?
I actually want to add half and half. Do you want to go first?
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I will just add half and half. I feel composition API is actually better. I think the difference with the options API is options API provides you the organization already. While with composition API, you need to do the next steps so to organize it yourself. I found myself with a really long chunk of setup of lines of code in a setup, and the other guys were like, okay, so composition API isn't really much better than the options API, and I said, it is. I'm just lazy. So it's not about. I could refactor it if I wish to. The point is, I don't have the time. But I also feel the same concern. I think John said before about the script setup and having too much magic in it. Like I prefer to. I try to use a bit the script setup, and I saw there's a lot of other RFCs about creating some more magic stuff, magic helpers to make it easier and shorter to write code. I think one of the coolest things about Vue is that it allows you to use the JavaScript, CSS, and HTML as plain as possible, I will say, and adding too much magic, in my opinion, could be a problem. That said, Quasar example of the new docs for the Quasar V2 are all with the composition API. So I'm pretty sure that the answer to the question, will the composition API win over time? I think the answer is yes. In two years, there will probably be only a composition API. But I hope options API will be still supported. I also have we have a coaching guy into the Quasar stuff right now, and he told us teaching to the new Vue developers options API and then reteaching the composition API will be too difficult. So he just go with the composition API. So I'm pretty sure composition API will win in the long run. I just hope it doesn't force you to go too magical.
Cypress, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, as I was thinking is that in 2 years, I think there will be something different, something else, a new style of API. Pretty sure. But now I started with the hype of the composition API, trying it out. I kind of enjoyed this script setup a lot more than having the script function and putting everything in there. Especially for like small components, it's just like a small block. And I also think, like personally, when I start with training or coaching a new developer coming into Vue without any knowledge before, I think I will go for the composition API. Because it's I don't know. It feels like it's more explainable, especially if you start with using the script function and then say, hey, you can do script setup. know the setup function and say script setup, whatever. So yeah, that's my opinion there.
So actually, question: most people, we're talking about just the raw script setup versus options API, but like when you add in TypeScript, like you can't do it with the options API in a sane way. Like it looks like shit. Like it just doesn't do what you need. And like for all of Johnson's work on Volar, like the composition API with TypeScript, like if you're going to be doing a TypeScript project, you should use the composition API. Like that's just the deciding factor.
If you got TypeScript, composition API is the only option. Right?
Yeah, you like basically have to. Or use TSX like John does.
Sorry, I wanted also to add to just TypeScript with composition API. It's a match that you have to use it. We love it so much that we have this feature flag that disables the options API in the Vue bundle, so you are not allowed to write the options API even in our code base at least. For the setup thing, I think the script setup is going to win. There is no sense in using the composition API without script setup because it does so much value. Yes, there is a lot of magic into what is exposed into the template and what is not, but I think the compiler is doing a really good job into figuring that out. So we don't really have to, and I shot myself a lot in the foot by not returning something in the setup that was supposed to be used in the template. So TypeScript helps with that too. And I would say personally for me, I just love the fact that I'm able to send refs around in functions, like sending reactive stuff explicitly. I just love this. Maybe I have a reactive function. So weird stuff like that is possible with the composition API only, but with the options API, it becomes tricky to figure out, is this reactive here when I send it to this function? Probably not. So
with script setup also, like you can export types associated with your component. Like if you have like a status badge component and you're using script setup, you can have a separate script block that only exports the type and you can import that. And I think that we use that kind of pattern in Cypress all the time in the UI, because Cypress is now written in Vue 3. Anyway.
So far, guys, we're 4-2. So composition API is winning. So my vote doesn't count. It wouldn't count anyway because I'm just a host. But I'm going to give my vote, and unfortunately, it goes to the actual option API. For the reason of it gives a bit more structure, I think, for new developers starting. I think the script setup is gonna turn. It could turn Vue into the same as a React file. That you open 100 React file, they may all be different. They're all structured different. They will all have things in a different way because there isn't that structure that they could be in an option API. So usually, what do I use? I use composition API, but I use it like the Vue use. So I use them for standalone small function, but the actual component is done on option API.
You mix it.
I mix it. Yes.
You mix it. Ooh, you wouldn't.
Okay. So I just use it as components, as mixins, as a mixins with superpower. I'll use it.
You are one of the evil guys.
Vue.js has a. Yeah, Vue.js has a component API, right? Like, so instead of having to import the composables, you can import the components, which are renderless components that are basically the composables. So if you don't want to do that at all, you can just import the components from Vue.js.
I like that. Oh, now I'm even more. Now I'm even more evil. Thank you, Jess.
You're welcome.
I don't think Awad is ever going to come anywhere close for me to touch his code base. Okay, I do apologize. Also, to stay, as we are talking about the script setup, I know that the composition API was great. People were a bit scared. Then the script setup came over, and again, it improved really the readability and the writing. And as some of you may be aware as well, there is a reactivity transform work that Ivan has been working on. So I think some of you did mention the next magic app. So currently you have to use the dot value for every time you declare a ref, and this reactivity transform is actually going to automagically do that dot value. So it's going to simplify and actually make the code even more readable as things go around. So I think that's going to be another point for the composition.
Yep, that's 3.3. That happens after the 2.7 work is completed. And so in 3.3, they're going to start finalizing that API. But it's available in the docs if people want to read it. It's very svelte. It's very svelte, which I love. So.
Sorry, I couldn't unmute myself anymore. If it's okay for everyone, guys, we're going to take 5 minutes bio break for people to get their thoughts. We're going to come back after the 5 minutes. We're actually going to go around the room for the updates, for the company updates, and then another lot of questions. I'm going to cry in the corner because the option API lost. So see you all in 5 minutes. And if you are watching on YouTube, stay there. We're not going to go any further. I'm going to be back. Here we are, 5 minutes have gone. We're starting to be back. So let's see. People around. Oh, everyone's been missing. Oh, I forgot to start my camera. Apologies. Good. Roll back on track. That's amazing. So I'm going to speak a bit quietly. I've been told that I've woken up the family twice, and it's midnight, so you don't want a hungry wife coming in, okay? So if I shout, do write in the chat. So jokes apart, as I mentioned, second part of this event is going to be about company updates and everything that you want to share that is relevant to the Vue ecosystem. So we're gonna go, so before we went anti-clockwise, now we're gonna go actually clockwise. Who I have on my right for now is Paul and Luke. So I know that you guys work for Quasar together, so I'm expecting to be just one update. If it's two different updates, you can actually share them as well, so no problem.
I think we'll just go one after the other. I will start and then Luke will take over. Okay, so some updates on the Quasar side for the Quasar community, but also for the broader Vue community. This year we'll be able to do the Quasar Conf. Last year we had to cancel it due to work-related reason. Let's say we didn't have time to work on it. Just that's the only problem. This year will be the 9th of July. We just opened the call for proposal. We already have some talks done by the core team or some other people of the Quasar staff. There will be Luke with the Quasar takeoff, which is a strange. Okay, I think he could explain it better, but it's some kind of interactive learning courses. So you can actually interact with the docs and the code while you're watching the video. There will be either a Vite CLI or TypeScript talk about the Quasar, about how we integrated all this kind of stuff into the Quasar code base by Yusuf, one of the core team members. I will do a talk about the automatic testing, of course, and we hope to have also a talk with from Jeff about the app extension system and the status of all the app extensions right now. Moving on to the next. Oh, right. If anyone into the Quasar community want to participate, to speak up, sorry. You can find the article with the link to submit your proposal into our social channels, mainly on Twitter, I think. We'll also update and add a banner on the Quasar website soon. So moving on something else. So instead of something in the near future, there's something we did in the past. We added Pinia support out of the box, thanks to Yusuf, one of the core team members. I don't think I need to present what's Pinia. We already did before. It's only enabled into the new CLI, which Luke will talk about later. Which can is now possible to create a Quasar project using like yarn create Quasar instead of downloading the Quasar CLI and going on with that stuff. Another thing we worked hard in the last month is the Cypress component testing support. So we actually got it working and it seems to work pretty fine. We have been using it either in some real world project, but also, and that's the news, we started creating tests, component tests for the Quasar UI. So and we are doing it with the component testing from Cypress. We are also trying to set up to run the test automatically when someone submits a PR on the UI part, and this is thanks to two new people who joined the Quasar staff, Evert and Milos. We are also we prepared everything to write all those kind of tests, and we will start writing the first ones. But if someone else wants to join us and help us in this gargantuan task of adding tests to all the Quasar to all the Quasar components, you will be, of course, most welcome. We also added the code coverage out of the box into the Cypress app extension for both component testing and normal end-to-end testing. Right now, it's only working for Vite, but we'll probably need to add. We will probably add the Webpack version too in some time. thanks to a sponsor who helped us sponsor us to implement this. The last thing I will say, and then we'll leave Duke to speak, is about the Google material symbols. I don't know if you heard about this new thing from the Quasar icons. Is like the Quasar material icons, but you can change some axes, some variables, so the width, the fill, so if it's filled or not. And this is created using a variable font, which is a fairly new thing. So you can actually customize the material design icons, changing with some CSS rules. So you only have one font you load, and then you can customize how it is presented, how the icons are actually shown. So if they are thicker or thinner and stuff like this, using CSS. And I think that's, and this is work from Jeff, which is the one who also takes care of all the app extension of first-party app extension of Quasar. So I think this is all on my side. Up to Duke, I guess.
Amazing. Thank you, Paolo. Duke, I think, is going to share the screen, so we're going to give it a try. Yeah. Oh, muted. Luke is muted. You cannot mute himself.
I couldn't figure out how to unmute myself whilst the screen is sharing. Anyway, okay, so I've got a few things to share, but not a lot of time, so I'm going to blast through this. I think all four of these things are going to blow your mind. So Quasar now has support for Vite under the hood, which is actually pretty remarkable that we were able to do this so quickly. And the reason it's remarkable is because Quasar relies so heavily on Webpack because it's exporting to all of these different platforms. So you can have a dev environment when you're developing for desktop, for mobile, for PWA, SPA, all of that is all using Webpack under the hood. But basically Razvan, the creator, I don't know, he must have like entered some weird like zone or something. He's managed to rip all that out and insert Vite. It was a massive project. It's just come out of beta now. So now you can use Quasar using Vite as a CLI, which is just awesome. The dev environment, the dev experience is awesome. It's so fast. And one of the great things about this is now we can use it using StackBlitz. So if you go to stackblitz.com/edit/Quasar framework, and I might just quickly throw that into the comments there. You can basically be up and running with a fully fledged Quasar application within about 10 to 20 seconds, depending on your internet speed. It is remarkable. And this editor that StackBlitz is using is actually faster than using VS Code on your desktop. I kid you not. So if you want to get up and running fast with Quasar, you can just jump straight over that website and you're ready to go. So that's the first thing. Another thing I wanted to mention is this is currently a work in progress, but there's an app extension I've been working on called Vue Auth. And this basically allows you to scaffold out full authentication for Quasar. And it currently supports Laravel Sanctum, Strapi, Supabase, and Firebase. And so not only does it give you the composables and tools for doing authentication, it also gives you all the components and all the routing for it as well. And all that annoying stuff. So you know how when you go to the dashboard and you're not logged in, you want the person to be redirected back to the login page and all that kind of stuff. That's all handled for you behind the scenes. So this is really cool. If you want to get up and running fast with authentication, then there's an app extension for that, which is the Quasar Vue Auth app extension. I quickly wanted to touch on this app extension. I love Nuxt routing. I think the stuff that they've done with routing is so cool. And somebody actually created a Vue route generator plugin package, which is basically Nuxt-like routing, but it's been pulled out of Nuxt. And so what I did is I wrapped that as an app extension. So if you want to have Nuxt routing in Quasar, that's now possible using the Quasar auto routing app extension. And the last thing is Quasar now has a video for every single component. So if you go to quasarcomponents.com, and I'll quickly whack that link into the chat as well. This is basically just a very simple site. and every single component is displayed here. And if you click on one like Q Field, for example, it'll just show you straight away a video that'll teach you how to use that component. This took like 7 or 8 months for me to build. So I really hope people get some value out of this. And these are not just like, this is how you use the component type videos. In fact, if you look at the Q Select video, which is the longest one, this is over an hour long. We really get into the nitty gritty of how to use these components. And so now that that's done, the next thing on the horizon in terms of education, I'm going to try and build a robust sort of scalable app series, quote unquote scalable. Nobody knows what that word means these days. But yeah, the next thing I want to do is build a series that shows you how to build an app for larger teams. So things like, setting up your linter, knowing how to organize your folders when you're building a project that you want to last for 5, 6, 7+ years. I think there's a real need for that in the community. So that's the next thing that I want to focus on. And that is what's happening in the Quasar world.
That is a lot. That is amazing, and it's fantastic to see all those videos. I've seen them popping up from Twitter from time to time. Your hard work on that. So that's fantastic. Well done, guys.
Sorry, I also forgot. Sorry, just because I added it into the other page of my notes. So there's also two extensions we just released. One for VS Code, and from Bart, one of the other guys in the staff, who wrote a VS Code extension to easily access the docs from the command palette. And one from the IntelliJ IDEA, we created a plugin, Knuckle, another from our staff, which finally adds the autocomplete for Quasar into IntelliJ IDEA IDEs. Sorry, forgot to mention it previously.
That's no problem at all. As I can see, you guys have been busy. Not sure if Maya is actually there. So who wants to go next? Oh, she's there. She's there. Okay, in that case, Maya, you go ahead. You give your update. You're muted. You're muted.
Sorry, I'll just get back from. Yep, the kid is crying. So, okay, about what? One moment.
Do you want to go? Do you want to wait a few minutes first? Do you want someone else to take over?
If someone else do it first, no problem.
No problem. Take care of your kitty. Who wants to go next? I don't remember who was giving. I know that Jess, is it Liam, Cypress? Yeah, Liam then, if it's okay. Oh, Cypress is unmuted.
Yeah.
You were faster, you were faster.
All right, I don't think it's a race, but all right. So small update on the Chakra UI Vue side. Let me see my notes. So mainly on the Vue 1 version, which is for Vue 3, supporting Vue 3. As I said before, it's still in alpha stage, so we're really busy developing. We have a small team, so it takes a little longer. We're also focusing on the documentation because we have a workable version, but we don't have much documentation yet. And we are building, of course, new components and some composables to use. Besides that, maintenance is still one of our priorities, also for the V0 version. And one of the biggest things I think that will come is that components will be working with Zeg.js. Zeg.js is it's a framework agnostic accessible UI components library that's powered by state machines, and it's written by Sage from the Chakra UI React team, together with some other people, and it's really cool. It's using state machines, and we're looking how to use those under the hood for Chakra UI Vue, because it's framework agnostic, so we can do it for Chakra UI React, Chakra UI Vue, Chakra UI Svelte, Solid.js, Angular, whatever, when someone wants to build it. That's also something we're looking into, and it looks promising. That was the small update. Thanks.
For a small team, that's a big enough update, I'm telling you. Next one up is Liam, please.
Thank you. Yeah. So today we actually had our company conference, Ionic. So it's a one-day, totally free conference for web developers who are building mobile apps. So if you're someone who's interested in using your web skills, including your Vue skills, to build mobile apps, I definitely recommend you check it out. We recorded all the updates and all the sessions. So if you can go to ionic.io in your web browser, you can watch all the panels. In that conference, we actually gave a few updates on the state of Ionic, the community, capacitor, things like that. One stat that I thought was pretty interesting is we actually have over 160,000 App Store apps that were built with Ionic or capacitor, some of which were built with Vue, which is pretty cool to think about, that there's Vue tech running on the iOS and Android app stores. In terms of Ionic framework, we released Ionic 6.1 a few weeks ago, had a lot of really cool improvements to the bottom sheet component, the date time component, range, and more. We gave our first look at the component play. This is one of the big things that people have been asking for a while, is when you go to our documentation and you see all the different UI components you have, there's really no way of playing with it right in your browser. And so what the playground will be is it's a way of seeing how components are supposed to look and behave right in your browser without writing a single line of code. So if you have a date time, a calendar picker example, you can see what it looks like, you can interact with it. You can switch between iOS mode, Android mode, light mode, dark mode, all sorts of things. You can get framework specific code. So you can get Vue code, Angular code, React code that you can just copy, paste right into your app. My favorite feature though is the big old stack blitz button. So if you select Vue, date time, and you click the stack blitz button, it'll actually open up a Vite application in stack blitz with that code already preloaded. So you can just play around with it right in your browser. It's pretty slick, and I'm really excited to get that door. On the capacitor end, if you're a Vue developer building mobile apps with capacitor, you'll be excited to hear that we released a brand new native Google Maps plugin for capacitor that you can use with your mobile apps. That's available now. Definitely go check it out. It's brand new. Let us know what you think. Report any bugs on our GitHub repos, feature requests, things like that. So a lot of really interesting things going on in the mobile app space right now. So thank you.
Thank you for that update. Amazing to hear all these changes. Next one up is Howard.
Okay, I have a small code to share. It will be quick. Good thing I unmuted first. Okay, so with the Vuelidate, there is a couple of interesting updates, smaller ones. So a little bit of context, Vuelidate has been doing value collection for you, so you don't really need to use vModel anymore. But still, people want to use their vModels. So Vuelidate is trying to cater to that. And one of the parts that didn't really play well with that is field arrays, where you have multiple fields that are repeatable. So in this quick example, I have a field array component. I'm using components here, but I would recommend the composition API. Anyways, so previously you would have to use a field component or the use field composable to be able to change a single element's value. But now you can just use vModel directly and bind it to the value on the iterable field. So this is just quickly allows you to build your field arrays without really worrying about, so of course, this is not a valid email, without worrying about having to use the composition API or the components. So it reduces a little bit of the code that you have to use. So yeah, it works like this. So this is the first update. Second update is, I think this is the more interesting one, is related to Pinia. So previously, I talked about how Pinia allows you to source composition, to allow your functions, your composition functions, to source your actions, state, and whatever you want. So this is an example of that. So you can do this with Vuelidate by passing a function to the define store function from Pinia, and you can use the same composition function you have been using already. So use forum, and you grab the errors, you grab the validate function, maybe you grab this function that will be available in the new version. So this is the work in progress part. And now here I'm creating the models that I need for my forum. Here I'm creating the submit action, and I'm returning them all in that function. So when you actually try to use this, so you import your store, you sign up store, for example, and you just bind your stuff around into your HTML. So this is a different approach into how to use Vuelidate that wasn't possible before, but now you can actually start using it like you are using Vuelidate without Pinia. So it works exactly the same, but the benefit here is you get all the benefits of Pinia. You get the value tracking, you get the time travel, you get all the benefits that Pinia offers in the DevTools itself. So you get the best of both worlds without having to worry about syncing the value back and forth by letting Vuelidate source the store state for you and the actions. Okay, I think I'm done, and that's it.
So cool. We've come so far from like Vuex and trying to map the store back in, and that's wow. Wow.
It's amazing. That was a great update. I really like that opinion. Well done. Jess, do you want to finish off with Cypress 10?
Yeah, sure. So Cypress has been working for a long time on component testing. I guess 4 years now, 5 years. Cypress component testing has been an experimental, and Cypress has a perfectionism problem. So we're still not going to rip off the experimental label. We're going to release Cypress 10, which is a brand new UI, all written in Vue 3. With TypeScript. It's GraphQL backed actually, and it's 2 parts. It's just a little launch pad that has it's a little launch pad that has things like how to get started, and if you want to set up component or end-to-end or both kinds of testing, and then it will, look through your package JSON, figure out what framework you're using. We support Vite. And Webpack and all derived meta frameworks from that. So Nuxt, Next, Vue CLI 3, and I am missing one. Oh, there's like 9. We have like a matrix. There's a giant Google Doc of all the things we support. And so Cypress 10 component testing is coming out and will be more mainstream, and the UI will be for both kinds of testing. Actually, it's pretty exciting. We got to contribute back to the Vue community in a lot of it, which was really cool because we were using a Vite-based, it's basically Vitest. If you've ever seen that template, we took that, we grabbed it, stripped it all out and put it in Electron. And it's been really cool to like contribute back the virtualized list that exists in Vue use. It is the one that we use when we're doing our file explorer for all the spec files. So that's been really cool. The release date is, as of today, June 1st. So we will be at Vue Amsterdam on June 1st, and that is when Cypress 10 is supposed to drop. We just merged about 8 hours ago. We merged the 10.0 release branch into develop. It's been a large chunk of my life, and I'm very proud of the entire team that helped put it together. So you'll see a big update. Visually, you'll be like, whoa, Cypress 10, and it has a wonderful migration experience. We look at your existing configuration files, map all the options for you, help you migrate. Big support is, or a big change is module support and TypeScript support has improved greatly. We have a JavaScript. We have a runtime config file now, so you no longer have just a JSON config file. Allows you to get much better type support. I think that's what I have for Cypress 10. If you would like to see it, I'm going to be giving a talk at Vue Amsterdam on June 2nd or 3rd using the new UI. And then I'm going to be giving a workshop at Vue Conf US on June 8th. June 8th, I think that's the one, in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So that's my life right now is polishing up those workshops and talks, and super stoked for all the work that the team did and put together to get it to we actually call it unification, is the internal name of unifying end-to-end and component under one code base. So it's a very unifying effort.
I love the way we make new words.
What?
I love the way we make new words in this ecosystem. You know,
unification.
Like, let's take unification. Yes,
that's a real word. I think.
I don't know. I say many new words just by putting things together. The same way you put two emojis together and just makes a new one. I live my life like that. So, thank you so much, Jess. Maya, I know that you gave a very quick update at the start. Do you want to give it again? So for people that will just see this part of the.
Sure. An update for which part? The Evan part or the? Wait, you said Maya.
Yeah, his name's Maya.
Perfect. Sorry, I misheard you.
It's fine. I don't mind. Well, yeah. So I'm currently working on polishing my Vue projects at the component library using state machines at the bottom. I think Chakra UI also do the same thing, if I'm not wrong. But yeah, my it's a side project, and then I started to make it more components to it, and hopefully we'll release soon. On the side note of Nuxt, then because I'm a Nuxt ambassador, so I need to give you the updates if anyone haven't give updates yet. So the Nuxt 3 candidates is stable right now, and it will be expected to be released very shortly. So if you are library authors, you can start migration your library to your Nuxt library or plugin to Nuxt 3 and start as soon as possible. Yeah, that's it.
That's amazing. Thanks so much for giving your updates. As you know, some of you have discussed and mentioned about different conferences. So why don't we share your conferences that you know they're coming up, either online or face-to-face, and yeah, and also tell us if you're going to be there, because some people you do like to see you and follow you around.
Well, I start first then.
Yeah, you can.
Okay, so I will join Jess and probably John in Vue Amsterdam next week. I will give a talk about basically more like about productivities and architectures, using how we're going to make the most of Vue out of any stack, especially with Microsoft platform tools. And then I think that's it. Then I'll have another talk about Vue, I think in September. Yeah, for a conference in Croatia. Haven't decided what we'll talk about, but probably we'll talk about testing using Playwright and Vue. Yeah, Vue application. Yep, someone had to talk about Playwright instead of Cypress. Yeah. That's so far in my plan for talk engagement. Didn't really have a lot of time for doing that. We're pretty excited about Vue Amsterdam. We think the first time after Corona, we actually meet everyone together again in person in Amsterdam in that messy stage.
It's absolutely great. I know that loads of people are looking forward for it, and I think most of the things the speakers are looking forward about the speaker drinks, the dinner, the time that goes outside of the talk, because that's where the ecosystem is created. So it's very important for you guys to go together and really enjoy that time together. And we're going to enjoy the talk. So who else has any upcoming events that you would like to share or that you're going to attend?
Well, I'll also be at I also will be at Vue Amsterdam, but I will be enjoying the talks. The 3 days is also GS World, so it's gonna be good. And then maybe I will be speaking. I did my call for paper on a Belgian conference, Refactor, in October, but not sure yet. But yeah, looking forward to it too.
I'm going to be at at both Vue Amsterdam and Vue Contributor. We're starting Vue Boston back up. So that's pretty exciting. June 29th, I think, is our second event. I missed the first event. But our second event is June 29th. I know nobody here is going to be able to attend because it's in Boston. And we're
I live
all
in
very
Boston.
global. Wait, are you fucking serious? You live in Boston?
Yeah. Yeah.
Holy shit. Are you coming?
I just learned about it 30 seconds ago. I can be there.
Go into the Boston JavaScript Slack and message me.
You both live in Boston and you don't know?
What? I'm in Central Square right now. Oh my God. All right. I'll talk to you later then.
Perfect. Sounds good.
It's fantastic to see that. Good. There's another topic that I would like to touch upon, many of you have mentioned it for either an updates or for an integration or for something that you're looking forward, and it's going to be the component testing. So Jess gave an update on Cypress component testing. I know that has also been discussed. Maya, you mentioned Playwright, I never remember it, and also the Storybook 6.5 with more upgrade to their component testing. So again, you can take the mic and talk about it, but what are you excited about the component testing? Because there's no saying if you're going to use it or not. It seems like it's taking the show anyway. So what are you excited about? What do you think about it? And share your thoughts and your experiences on it. And it's an open mic, so just unmute yourself.
So I think everybody, every web developer thinks component first at this point. There's this idea of page-based development and component-based development, and most developers are thinking in components anymore now, not pages. You don't think I'm going to implement /cart. You're not thinking route-based. You're thinking I'm going to implement the rows that represent each product, and you build from there up until you get your cart. And like maybe it's its own page, maybe it's a sidebar. Who cares? You're starting in these tiny Lego blocks, and you're thinking in a term that's called component-driven. And if you go to component-driven.org, you will find an open standard called CSF, which is the component story format. And that's kind of like the start. This is about 5 years old idea, 6 years old idea. That's about the start of this movement of thinking in a component-driven way. And then, of course, now that we're building like that, we want our tools to match it, right? And so we have tools like Storybook who are like, okay, yeah, we want to give you a sandbox so you can component drive your development. And Cypress is thinking the same way. Okay, now that you've written a mount function that exercises the API of your component, like, wouldn't it be so easy to write .click right after you mount it and make sure that like the text shows up or doesn't? And Playwright has the same exact idea. And recently, I guess this week, a somewhat unknown developer became very much in the GitHub spotlight as the #1 developer, I think #1 rising developer for releasing something called Jest Preview, which takes your Jest tests and mounts them and tries to simulate, what it looks like. And so everybody's trying to take this building block, the basic building block of the component, and build tooling around it. I would like to give a huge shout out to something we haven't mentioned, which is a Vue-specific port of Storybook called Histoire. It's French, it means history. It's a Storybook replacement, and it's built by Akriam Guillaume, who built the Vue dev tools. And we've been talking about the API he'd like to build around it. And it's very much like SFC first, trying to solve this problem of building a component workbench and something that is individually testable. So I think component-driven development is really the conversation, and testing tools are trying to meet developers where they are and where they're building. And literally every testing framework wants to do it because there's a need. And Just Preview, by the way, the creator of that was promptly invited into the Vitest Discord to go and build the Vitest version of Just Preview, because everybody's thinking the same thing. That's all I got on that.
What was that Vue Storybook alternative you were talking about?
Histoire, Histoire, Histoire. I'm not French. I'm really bad at French accents.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, he released it 2 months ago, I think, 2.5 months ago. It's pretty cool. You use your variants inside the SFC template block, and it feels very natural. It's a very natural DSL for Vue developers. And Storybook is, written in React, so it always feels a little funky in both.
Anyone else wants to provide some input or experience on component testing, or just ideas of where it's going to go?
Well, in Quasar, we just start exploring it, so we don't really have much experience with it. But so far, from what we saw, we really like it. I don't know if, sorry, I may have missed this, but to Jess, a question to Jess. How does the Playwright component testing compare to Cypress 1?
So Playwright component testing was very recently released. Maya, you work there now. Do you want to give the update? I can give you.
Well, I think it's better for you to give an update. I mean, I saw it. I saw they released it.
Yeah.
I haven't had a chance to test it. I will use it at work, but I haven't have a chance to test it with React or Vue and so on. So it's hard for me to say. Yeah. So go ahead.
So it supports Vite only right now is the main difference. It's Vite only, and then Cypress is big. If you were to try to bake off one versus the other, the reason I would choose Cypress would be it has a better driver, and in the anatomy of in my talk, the anatomy of a test runner, we talk about what a driver is. It's the thing that decides if you can click on something or if it's visible, right? Like, what does it mean for an overlay to still be visible? Is it in the DOM? Is opacity 0? Is z-index -1? Like, those are all these things. And that's why I think Cypress is a superior driver to testing library. You can use testing library syntax with Cypress and get the nice driver and the syntax. But there are a lot of nuances that most people who don't think about this shit way too much don't know. But yeah, that's the main difference. Is the bundler compatibility right now for Cypress is much wider. So you'll be able to compile things easier. And then two, the driver is still superior. You can just, there are simply things you cannot test in Playwright or a testing library raw that Cypress's driver can.
Thanks.
Has anyone? Oh, sorry, you go, Seven.
Okay. Yeah, I was just gonna say that with Chakra UI Vue, we had the great experience to have help from the Cypress team setting up some of the component testing with Cypress in our V1. Because of that, I think we're pretty comfortable that components will be good. So I think on the experience side, it's been very good. Yeah.
I think the only aspect we had some problems with was the typing of new commands we created. It's a bit I don't know, clunky in that part, but we managed. In the end, we managed to create our own commands, but that seems a bit strange when we work with it. I don't know if you can work with it.
You're on Cypress 9. You're like,
yeah.
If you saw the tweet I said, you were about 500,000 lines of code behind.
Oh.
Yeah, that's how big Cypress 10 is. Yeah, 1,500 commits that are squash commits is Cypress 10 that's about to drop. So you've been living in the less than amazing world.
Okay.
While I've been reaping the benefits of Cypress 10 selfishly.
Am I correct to say that you're going to release that on a Friday night? Yeah, because it's just one commit anyway. You squashed it, so nice and simple.
So technically, I'm going to be in Amsterdam, so I'm not even going to be there. No, it's a June 1st is the release date. it's the release date that we're advertising so far. We're historically terrible with release dates. But yeah, so we're excited. We think, I mean, obviously there'll be day one stuff, but just, you know, don't upgrade. If you wait for a patch version, wait for a week. And then, because it is a big change, which is not usually my style, but Cypress is a big project. A lot of people use it.
Now I'm both worried and excited.
Same
Worried
here.
because I don't know how smooth the upgrade process will go.
It's pretty. The testing infrastructure we had to build for this was pretty interesting. Like post Cypress 10, like just talking through the testing infrastructure of how to make sure that like Vite version X, Y, and Z will all work with these different project configurations. Like it was a very interesting part of building the project, is how much testing there is to make sure we don't regress. It's insane.
That's amazing. Any more taken on component testing? Any more? You're good. I think Jess took the show. She's been able to. That's it. No one is complaining. That's good. 10 over 10. So we have around 10 minutes left. So probably, I don't know if anyone else has any other questions or things that you want to discuss, but usually I always like to end up with a round table for everyone to have a say. And multiple questions, you can choose which question to answer. It can either be what is the most exciting things that you are looking forward, so something that is not available within the Vue framework yet. So anything that other even has mentioned, or things that you hope they're coming to the library or anything, or you can tell us what has been the most exciting things that you have been using recently in Vue 3, because Vue 3 has a lot of new cool things. I'm still finding things as I go along. Or you can say whatever you want to finish off. If neither of those go around. So you can, let's go alphabetical order. Howard, you go first.
I would say I'm excited for the standardization for the suspense API, because it has been experimental for a while now, and it's kind of worrying whenever you use it. You get this warning in the compiler that's not safe, so it's kind of worrying that you have to use it, but I'm looking forward to seeing what patterns emerge from using it, because so far it has been avoidable. You can avoid using it, but yeah, I'm excited to see how it shapes up in production and see how people use it.
Amazing. I was still doing alphabetical order. Okay, so next one up, I got Liam. I don't know if it's the correct one.
Yeah, personally, I am very excited about the SSR improvements. I get a lot of questions from our community about SSR and Vue, and it's just been like kind of a shrug. I haven't been able to give a pretty definitive answer because I know it's still sort of early days for that, but I'm really excited to see all the new improvements and fixes and features that are coming out there to see how we can better help people building with our software as well.
Amazing, thank you. By the way, I do apologize. As I'm Italian, we don't have J and K in the alphabet. So when I did the alphabet in my head in Italian, J and K was missed. So let's go back to J. Jess, you go next.
Oh, on the Faker project, we use Vitest and we generate the documentation from types, and that's been really fun to play with. So yeah, I'm particularly excited about Vitest and then Vitest and basically anything Anthony Antfu produces. I am on it. I fucking love his stuff. I stan him very hard. Yeah. That's it.
You're absolutely right. Every time that there's an update in his Twitter, I go like, oh, I need to read it. No matter what he's writing, I need to read it. It may be something that I need.
It's so fucking good. Oh god.
It's good. It's good. Next one up, we have John.
Hello. Talking about unit testing still? Sorry. I got distracted.
What do you want? What is the other feature that is upcoming to Vue that you're very excited about and hoping you to launch early, or anything that you have been using on Vue 3 that changed your life and you're very happy to share?
Well, honestly, funnily enough, at this point in Vuetify development for a very long time, most of that I've left to Kale. I have not been on the bleeding edge knowledge-wise of the new features and functionalities, because a lot of what we do now in Vuetify is split between more of the technical aspects and the maintaining aspects. I still get in there with Kale, but a lot of the underlying technology is built by Albert and Kale, whereas what I try to do is take the idea that they've been able to implement and make it look better, make it prettier, make it easier to look, work with. And so not a lot of features that I'm really tracking that are coming up. I do know that I'm very happy with the state of everything that we have. Working in TSX has been beautiful, and I feel like it's going to shore up one of the issues that we've had in Vuetify for at least in version 2 is contributing to at least render functions in version 2 is very difficult. And it kind of took someone who wanted to learn the framework to be able to contribute in that fashion. So pretty happy with what we got. I haven't spent any time with Vitest, or Vitest as we've been hearing here, but I'm sure it's going to be fun. So we'll probably move to that within the next month or so, I'm sure.
Amazing. Thank you so much for the update. Next one, we have Luke.
Yeah, I just want to draw everybody's attention to Vue use. Like Jess just talked about Anthony Fu, and I almost blew up with excitement. He's like, the guy's a genius. And I think of Vue use as like having an army of the best developers in Vue on the planet writing all of your code for you. Like so much of my code is Vue use code. It's very TypeScript friendly. It works for Vue 1 and Vue 2. Not Vue 1 and Vue 2, Vue 2 and Vue 3. And specifically one composable that I love out of Vue use is use V model, which allows you to very easily, I was talking before about pulling logic out of components. And one of the things that I always found difficult is basically being able to say V model on that component, and then, the component underneath being synced with, the thing that you're V modeling. And that's like always been a really annoying pattern for me. And I spent years and years wrestling with that and trying to figure out the best way to do it. And Vue uses use V model single-handedly solves that problem. So, it's one of those things you probably just need to go check out yourself. So go check out vueuse.org and look up use V model, one of my all-time favorite composables.
Amazing. I can see now that Vue use has been mentioned. Everyone is going to be excited because it is absolutely awesome. It's great. Next one, Maya.
Well, I must say that recently I started using Vite and Vitest a lot, both in production at work and both in personal project. By the way, I work at using React, so it's like a huge deal because we're using React with Vite and Vitest instead of using React with Webpack and Chest, I think. And it works very well, and everyone was very, very impressed that the speed is amazing, especially with Vite. And that's one thing I really like. And the other thing is, like I say, I didn't really think composition API is better than option API, but I found myself using script setup more often than option APIs now. So yeah, and whenever I tend to write a component demo on Vue, I start with script setup. So yeah, 90% of the time I'm using script setup. So that's the thing that you most in Vue. But basically anything about the Vue ecosystem now is very cool to use, and you can use it outside of the Vue ecosystem also, which is great.
Amazing. Thank you so much for the last update. Next one up, we have Paolo.
So the thing I'm excited about, I think is probably the new compilation strategy. I was lucky enough to be in a chat with even when it was first experimenting this stuff, and he tried to explain it to me and another guy from Next, and I didn't actually got much of that explanation, but I really like the idea that Vue just keeps getting better and better under the hood, and you actually don't need to change anything. So it just, okay, from day 1 to day 2, you just switch a flag and your app just go faster. Like, I don't see this kind of things into other, like, I used Angular for quite some time. It wasn't like this. I never used React, so I cannot talk for React, but it really amazed me. And I'm pretty sure there will be some kind of noticeable speed ups. So that's the thing I'm looking forward to.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. Yeah, no, build is getting so fast that we don't have an excuse to have coffees anymore. So the sales coffee has gone down for software engineering. Last but not least, Cypress.
I'm really loving the TypeScript support, because it's a way better developer experience. Had to roll into it, but right now I really love it. Also, that I think like the composition API can say magically say, hey, this variable will be this type and that stuff. A little bit magic there. And then on the other roads, I'm looking forward to libraries that support Web3 with Vue, because right now I mainly see React libraries like Rainbow Kit, which looks awesome, but I don't know many or any that's Web3 and Vue. So I think it's a cool thing that will come out soon. Yeah.
That's amazing. Also, every time we talk about TypeScript, also let's do a shout out to Johnson for the Polar extension. Let's not forget that if it wasn't for him to so quickly go through and provide that, it would have been very hard for people to actually use it. So, hands up for that. I'll go last on my. What I'm really enjoying to use it is the vbind in the CSS. I don't know if you guys have used that feature yet on V3. It seems it is so useful. It is absolutely, it's so fantastically useful. So the vbind in CSS, some people say, oh, it's a JavaScript, CSS in JavaScript. I was like, no, don't call it that way. Vbind in CSS, ability for you to use all reactive properties in your CSS as a CSS variable has been absolutely great to use with that. There's so much more that you can do, so that's fine. 2 minutes to the end, guys. I think it's been a fantastic talk. Thank you so much for the great discussions. Also, for everything that you shared, for the updates that you shared for the ecosystem. Unfortunately, we didn't have even with us, but we've been able to fill 2 hours of talking, and we've spoken, and we didn't stop. So well done, everybody here. So thank you, everybody who is watching this live, and thank you for everybody who's going to watch this offline. And also thank you so much for all the panelists that joined today, all from very different time zone. I know that it's very late or very early for some of you. So thank you so much for joining here, and I'll see you again in a couple of months for another Vue event.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.